Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Samech Amud Beis, 60b of Meseches Kiddushin. We are starting from 3 lines down the page, where the Gemara, the third word on the line says, Utzricha, it was necessary. So the Gemara is discussing a machlokes between Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda with regards to a couple of very similar cases, one with regards to Kiddushin and one with regards to get. So the Mishnah had stated that if a man tells a woman that you are mikudeshes to me, on condition, he gives her something now, a shava pruta, he gives her a pruta now, and he says, you're mikudeshes to me, on condition that I give you 200 prutas. So, or 200 zuz, actually, the example was. So, the Mishnah had said, Harezu mikudeshes, she's mikudeshes, v'hu yiting, and he'll give it. So there was a machlokes in the Gemara as to how to interpret that. According to Rav Huna, it means she's mikudeshes from now, on condition that he eventually give it. As long as he eventually gives it, the Kiddushin will have taken effect now. If he never gives it, the 200 zuz that he promised, then actually there will never have been a Kiddushin there. That's Rav Huna's position. Rav Yehuda's position was that, no, it's not a condition, or I should back up a step. The way that the Gemara, Rashi pointing us to us, and really we'll see in the continuation of the Gemara, the way it's developed is revolving around the question of when somebody says al minas, on condition, is it as if they're saying from now? So that he never said, you'll be mikudeshes to me from now, on condition that I eventually give you the other 200 zuz. He just said, you're mikudeshes to me with this money, on condition that I eventually give you 200 zuz. So is saying al manas on condition like saying me'achshav already from now? So Rav Huna says yes, and the Kiddushin takes effect now as long as he eventually fulfills the condition. Rav Yehuda says no. It only is Kiddushin at the moment he gives the 200 zuz. Later, whenever that happens, that's when the Kiddushin takes effect. It does not take effect from now retroactively. So that was with regards to Kiddushin. And then the Gemara brought that they have the same machlokas, the same dispute with regards to a get. If a man says to a woman, here's your get on condition that you give me 200 zuz, so it's the Mishnah or Brisa that I quote says that it's a good get, v'yititing, as long as she gives it. So she gives the money. So, when is it a good get? So again, Rav Huna says it's a good get from right now, on condition that she eventually fulfills the condition. And Rav Yehuda says it's a good get once the condition is fulfilled. So Rav Huna maintains that al manas, saying on condition, is like saying me'achshav from now. And Rav Yehuda continues to maintain that no, it will only take effect once the condition is fulfilled. From that moment it takes effect. So now the Gemara is going to ask, why do they need to tell us that they argue both by Kiddushin and by Gittin? Once I know it by one, I can figure out that the machlokas, the dispute, would be the same with regards to the other one. So that's the Gemara's unspoken question, and the Gemara says, Utzricha, it was necessary for them to state their opinions by both Kiddushin and Gittin. Why? De'iyashma'inan gabe Kiddushin. Because if they only taught us this argument with regards to Kiddushin, so I would have said, B'haka amar Rav Huna. That's where Rav Huna says that it's in effect from now. That al manas, in this case, when you make a condition, it works from now. Mishum dilikrova ka'asi. Because by Kiddushin, he's coming to bring her in. He wants to bring her in. He wants to marry her. So he wants that to happen ASAP, right? So ASAP. So there we would say he means from now, when he makes that condition. From now, we're mikudeshes as long as the condition is eventually fulfilled. Aval gerushin, but a divorce, dilirachka ka'asi, which he's trying to distance her from himself. Ema modi leil Rav Yehuda. Maybe I would think that Rav Huna would agree to Rav Yehuda in that case, that he's hesitant. He doesn't want it to take effect now, maybe. If he's making a condition, maybe he wants to wait till that condition is fulfilled. And maybe Rav Huna would agree to Rav Yehuda in the case of a get, that it's not in effect from now. It's only in effect once the condition is fulfilled. That's what you might have thought if they had only recorded their machlokas, the dispute with regards to Kiddushin. I would not have been able to figure out that they still argue with regards to get. That's why I also had to tell me that they argue with regards to a get. V'i itmar bahach. Now, maybe go the other way. Maybe they should have just told me that they argue with regards to gitting, and I can figure out that they argue also with regards to Kiddushin. So the Gemara says, I only said it by that one, meaning by a get. I would say, Bahach kamar Rav Huna, mishum de'ihu lo kasif le mitzvah. I would say, again, there's something novel going the other way now. I would say maybe Rav Huna said that by a get, specifically, that's where, or really the condition that he made on this get, that's where we would say it's me'achshav, it works from now, because what was the condition? The condition was, he gives her the get on condition that she gives him money. Now, ihu lo kasif le mitzvah, he's not embarrassed to demand that money from her. So he's confident that he's going to get that money eventually, and we can say that the get is in effect from now, because he knows he's going to go and demand the money, he's going to get it eventually, the condition will be fulfilled, so it's a real condition. It's less, I guess, of an unknown, and there's more confidence behind it, and therefore there's an assumption that it's going to happen, and it can take effect now. As opposed to, Aval Hacha, but with regards to the Kiddushin, De'i ksifa lo mitzvah, she might be embarrassed to actually ask him for the money. Ema modi le Rav Yehuda, maybe Rav Huna would agree to Rav Yehuda. Tzricha, that's why it was necessary to teach both. Meaning, in the case of Kiddushin, we need her to have full confidence that her, in her the Kiddushin that she's receiving. So, if he says to her, "You're mikudeshes to me," on condition that I later give you money. So that later money is part of the Kiddushin. So she has to be confident that she's getting, in order for her acceptance to be a real acceptance, she has to be confident she's actually going to get that money eventually. Otherwise, she never really accepted the Kiddushin, because she had doubts about what he was offering. And since she is perhaps embarrassed to ask him for that money, so we might have thought that she doesn't have enough confidence in getting the money to allow for the Kiddushin to be a good Kiddushin. That's why Rav Huna had to tell us, no, it wouldn't have been enough to say it by Gittin, that Almanas is like Me'achshav, that when you say on condition, it's like saying from now. Even by Gittin, all that we suggested is not the case. Even by Kiddushin, if he says on condition that this is your Kiddushin, on condition I later give you 200 zuz, even though she might be embarrassed to ask him for it, still, Rav Huna maintains that it's a good Kiddushin from right now, on condition that eventually he gives that money. Okay. The Gemara says, Meisve. We have a contradiction from a Brisa. The Brisa says, Harei ze gitech amana shetitni li masayim zuz. If the man says to her, our case by get, here is your get on condition that you give me 200 zuz. The Brisa says, Af al pish niskara haget o she'avad, even if the get gets torn up or gets lost, Harei zu migureshes. It's a good get. She is divorced. Ula acher lo tinase achetite. Now she can't actually go and marry anybody else until she gives the money, because she has to fulfill the condition. But the get is good. Now we're going to ask another question, but just from here, what's the question? What's the contradiction? Who is this approved for? So it says, the Bryce is saying that when you make this condition, here's your get. On condition, he says to her, that you give me 200 zuz. So, according to Rav Huna, it's a get from right now, as long as the condition is fulfilled. According to Rav Yehuda, it's only a get once the money is given. But the Brisa says that even if the get gets lost or torn up before the money is given, it will still be a good get, assuming that the condition is eventually fulfilled. So that would have to mean that it's a get from the very beginning, that he gave her the get. It was in effect already then, as long as the condition is fulfilled. Because if it only would go into effect later, like Rabbi Yehuda is saying, if it only goes into effect once she gives the money, well, there's no get at that point anymore. We're talking about a case where the get is lost or stolen. Torn up or lost. So this brisa that seems to be a proof for Rav Huna that it's a good get retroactively from the beginning. Ve'otanya, and we also learning another brisa. Amar la hariza gitechem nashtitumi masayim zuz. If he says to her, here is your get on condition that you give me 200 zuz. Umes. And then he dies. So if Nasna, if she had given the 200 zuz before he died, fulfilled the condition, ein zikukul yabam. So then she doesn't fall to yibum if they didn't have any children. So if they're still married, she falls to yibum. If they're divorced already at the time of his death, she does not fall to yibum. So if she had fulfilled the condition and given him the money already, she doesn't fall to yibum. But lo nasna zikukul yabam. But if she had not given it yet, she had not paid the money, she falls to yibum. That's the first opinion of the brisa. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, no senes la'achiv o la'aviv o la'echad min akrovim. She can give the money to one of his brothers, or his father, or one of his relatives, meaning, I guess, the closest relative, and that will be a fulfillment of the condition, and it will turn out that retroactively it was a get. So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is maintaining that even after he dies, she's able to fulfill the condition. Now the Gemara elaborates, it says, Ad kan lo pligi, el demar savar li v'lo li arshai. Their only machlokas between the two opinions here is one opinion, the first opinion holds that when the man says that the condition is you have to give it to me, he means only to me. It can't be to one of my heirs. That would not be a fulfillment of the condition. And therefore, once he dies, it's impossible for her to fulfill the condition. Umar Savar, but the other opinion of Shimon Gamliel holds, Afil Yarshai, that she could still fulfill the condition after he dies, because she could give the money. When he says, you have to give me the money, he means him or his heirs. She could give it to whoever inherits him. But to Kuli Amamiya, but everybody seems to agree, Tanahave, that this is a Tanai, it's a condition that will take effect retroactively. Because if it were only to take effect at the time that she gives the money, well, he's dead already. So it's too late for the get to go into effect at that point. If it only, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it only goes into effect when the condition is fulfilled. But he's already dead. So it can't be that it goes into effect now. But both opinions of this brisa seem to agree that if it was the case that, again, they're arguing about whether she can fulfill the condition by giving it to his heir, his brother or inheritor. But in terms of the logistics, the mechanics, they both agree that if she would fulfill the condition, if it was possible for her to fulfill the condition, the get would be a good get, even though the guy's dead. Well, how could that work? It's a get from the very beginning, from when he was alive. And it's me'achshav, from Almanas is like me'achshav. So this is another proof to Rav Huna. The Gemara says, Tiyufta de Rav Yehuda. This seems to be a rejection and a proof, refuting, a refutation of the opinion of Rav Yehuda. So Amar Lecha Rav Yehuda will say to you, Hamani Rabbihi. You know what? You're right. These brisas go against me. These brisas show that Almanas, on condition, is like saying Me'achshav, from now. The condition allows it to go into effect from now. That is true. These are good proofs to that. But these brisas are like the opinion, they're expressing the opinion of Rabbi, of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. De Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rabbi, because Rav Huna had said in the name of Rabbi, Kala Omer Almanas, Ka Omer Me'achshav Dami. If you say Almanas, if you say a condition, it's like saying from now. That was quoted in the name of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, but says Rabbi Yehuda, or Rabbi Yehuda would say to you, would say, Upligi Rabbanan Ale, but the Rabbanan disagree with him. The Rabbanan, they say like me. They say Almanas is not Me'achshav. A condition is not from now. It's true you have two brisas that express that viewpoint, but those brisas are going according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. But I'm saying like the Chachamim disagree with Rabbi. I'm saying like the Rabbanan. Okay, so now the Gemara is going to examine that a little bit more closely. It says Gufa, so let's examine this statement more closely. Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rabbi. Rav Huna said in the name of Rabbi, Amar Almanas ka Amar Me'achshav Dami. Anyone who says Almanas on condition, it's like saying from now. The condition is to go into effect already, or not the condition, but the get or the Kiddushin will go into effect now on condition that it's later fulfilled. That's the opinion of Rabbi. Amar Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera said, Ki avinan beBavel. When we were in Babel, Hava Amrinan, we would say, Hada Amar Rav Huna Amar Rabbi, that when Rav Huna quoted this in the name of Rabbi, Kol Omer Amanas Kol Omer Me'achshav Dami, that if you say Almanas, if you make a condition, it's like saying it should be in effect from now, as long as the condition is fulfilled. The rabbis argue, meaning we deduced. Rav Huna would quote in the name of Rabbi, and this is really what Rabbi Yehuda did too, just before. Rav Huna, we don't have, I guess, explicitly that the rabbis argue. Rav Huna would say, Rabbi says that if you say Almanas, it's like you're saying Me'achshav. Now the implication is that the rabbis argue on Rabbi. That's what Rabbi Yehuda said. He said, the rabbis, the rest of the sages argue, and that's who I go like. So now Rabbi Zera says that when we were in Bavel, we would say that our understanding of Rav Huna's teaching that Rabbi says that if you say Almanas, if you say a condition, it's like saying Me'achshav, it's like saying it should be in effect from now. That was Rabbi, but the rabbis argue. But Kisalki Lahasam, but when we went there, meaning to Eretz Yisrael, Ashkachte Rabbi Asi, we found Rabbi Asi, the Yosef Amar La Mishmed Rabbi Yochanan, who sat and said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Hakol Modim, everybody agrees, Ba'omer Almanas Ka'omer Me'achshav Dami. Everybody agrees to this. It's not a machlokus between Rabbi and the Chachamim. Everybody agrees that this is what Rabbi Yochanan said. Everybody agrees that if you say Almanas, if you say on condition, it's like saying Me'achshav, it's like saying that it should go into effect from now. Well, Nechloku, where do they argue? There is an argument that's similar, that's related between Rabbi and the Chachamim. And what is that? That's what we discussed last week. Ela mehayom la'achar misa. They argue in the case where somebody says, from now and after death. So that type of language, we said that Rebbe says that it's a Tanai, it's a condition. From now and after death means it should be from now. And now we should note, right, when you say from now, you're saying from now. The case of Almanas, on condition, he didn't say from now. He just said, here's a get on condition that I eventually give you the money. Or here's Kiddushin on condition I eventually give you the money. I eventually give you more money. He gives her money now. He says, here's Kiddushin on condition I eventually give you 200 zuz. But he never says from now. That was the case where we're questioning, is Almanas like saying Me'achshav? But in the case where the person actually says Me Hayom, from now, Ula'achar Misa, and after death, so there, he said from now. So Rebbe will certainly say that goes into effect from now, right? Or, if assuming it's a Tanai, assuming it's a condition, it certainly will go into effect from now, just like saying on condition is like saying from now. However, the Chachamim will maintain, the Chachamim will say, we're not, like we learned last week, we're not sure how to interpret such language, really 2 weeks ago I think, two Amudim ago. We're not sure how to interpret such language. Is it a condition or is it a retraction? And so they disagree how to relate to that case. V'hatanya, the Gemara says, and we have a brisa. Now this brisa, usually, very often, the word v'hatanya is a question. Oh, but we learned in a brisa. But sometimes v'hatanya is binichusa. Binichusa means it's said gently, meaning it's a proof. V'hatanya, and we have a proof to this. Mehayomu la'achar misa. If somebody says from today and after death, get to the eino get. It's both a get and not a get, meaning it's a suffix, we're in doubt. Divrei Chacham, that's the opinion of the Chacham, because again, we're not sure if it's a condition or if it's a retraction. If it's a retraction, then he's saying it should be a get after I die. You can't have a get after he dies. So that's the Chachamim. Rebbe Omer kazeh get. Rebbe says it is a get. So that's where they argue in that case, where you say from now and after death, but not where you say on condition. You say on condition, everybody agrees that it takes effect now. That's what we're suggesting. That's what Rabbi Yochanan said. Now the Gemara asks, Ula Rav Yehuda, but according to Rav Yehuda, Da'amar ba'al manas nami pligi. Rabbi Yehuda said, no, they don't only argue about almanas. Sorry, they don't. We don't say like Rabbi Yochanan that everybody agrees when it comes to almanas. No, they argue by almanas. Rabbi Yehuda maintains that this has been his position the whole time, that if you say, here's Kiddushin on condition, almanas, that I give you 200 zuz, so it's true that Rebbe says that almanas is like me'achshav, that you're saying it should be in effect from now, but Rabbi Yehuda says no, but the Chachamim don't agree to that, the Chachamim disagree. The Chachamim say that it's not a condition, the Chachamim say that it's not going to go into effect from now. It will go into effect at whatever time the condition is fulfilled. So ask the Gemara, so if that's the case, if they argue there too, so adam miflugi b'mei hayom ula'achar misa niflugu ba'almanas. So why does this brisa, which teaches us that they argue in the case where somebody says from today and after I die? Now, like we said, saying from today and after I die, you actually express the words from today. And well, I guess so maybe it's a different point. Over there, the reason the Chachamim disagreed sounds like mainly because they were uncertain if it's a condition or if it's a tanai, or if it's a retraction. Now, the Gemara is saying, niflugi ba'almanas. Why doesn't it bring their machlokas in the case of almanas, on condition? Because almanas, if Rav Yehuda is saying that the Rabbanan would say in the case of almanas that it only goes into effect later. So the Gemara is saying that would be, it sounds like that's a bigger chiddush to teach that opinion, that the Chachamim would say in the case of almanas that on condition that it only goes into effect once the condition is fulfilled. Why didn't it tell us that they argue in that case? So the Gemara says, Lo diacha koach de Rabbi. The reason why it chose to tell us about the case of from today and after Misa is to bring out how far-reaching Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's opinion is. Demehayom le'achar Misa nami harei zeh get. That even such language as from today and after I die, so it's still a get. Now, on the one hand he said from today, but on the other hand he said this language of and after I die, which might have been a retraction, and yet Rebbe still maintains that it works from now, that it's a condition. So I wanted to bring that out, so it taught us that case. If it had just taught us where you actually make a clear condition, then I wouldn't have necessarily known that Rebbe would say it, even in a case where it sounds like a retraction. But by telling us by teaching us the case where it sounds like a retraction, it's bringing out the novelty and the how far-reaching Rebbe's opinion is that even in that case, Rebbe says that it is a condition and it takes effect from now. So ask the Gemara, V'niflegui ba'al manas odiacha koach derabanan. Well, let's go the other way. Why not bring out the machlokas? And I guess this was really the thrust behind the original question of why not teach the machlokas over there? Meaning, what does the Brisa actually speak about? It speaks about a case where you say, from now and after I die. Now that's a language that might be a retraction. So there the Chachamim say it's no good. Or at least we're in doubt as to what it is. But we should go a step further and say, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Chachamim hold that even when you don't make it sound like a retraction, you just make a condition. And you say, this is your get, on condition that you eventually give me 200 zuz. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the Chachamim maintain it only goes into effect once she gives her. It's not from now. It only goes into effect later. So, in other words, there, it's not going to be a get from right now. So why not teach that even there the Chachamim say, even though it didn't sound like a retraction, it was a clear condition. Say even there the Chachamim say that it's not good until it doesn't take effect now, only takes effect later. So why not speak about that in the Brisa? So the Gemara answers a general rule that we have, which is koach dehetera adif. The strength, the power of a leniency is better, which I usually understand this to mean that it's easier to be stringent than to be lenient, and if there's a leniency being taught, so we rather express that, and so Rebbe is a leniency. So we want to show how far-reaching, how lenient Rebbe is. Not only in the case, right? Not only in the case where you make a clear condition, do we say that it's a condition from now, but even in a case where it's not a clear condition, even where you say from now and after I die, which is not a clear condition, it might be a retraction. Even there, Rebbe maintains that it's a condition, and that's a leniency. That it takes effect from now, and so. If we want to express, how far-reaching the opinion, we have the far-reaching opinion of the Chachamim, but they're on the stringent side that it doesn't take effect from now, and we have the far-reaching opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, of Rabbi, that it does take effect from now. So we'd rather bring out the koach dehetera, the far-reaching lenient opinion. Okay. Now the Gemara goes back to the Mishnah. Now the Mishnah had a case where the man says to the woman, you're mikudeshes to me with this, on condition I give you something, I guess 200 zuz or whatever, between now and 30 days. So the Mishnah said, if he gives it during that time frame, she's mikudeshes. If not, she's not mikudeshes. Ask the Gemara, pshita, that's obvious. It's a clear condition. If you fulfill the condition, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Explains the Gemara, what might I have said? Lav tanahu. No, it's not really a condition. He didn't really mean it to be a condition. Ubizruze ka'amar. He was just trying to be mezares, I guess himself, to get himself to give it. He didn't really intend for it to be a condition. He just wanted to get himself to get a move on giving her the money. So you might have said it's not a real condition, and really it's or at least the 30 days is not real. It's whenever he would give it. Kamash Malan. That's what the Mishnah comes and tells us. No, we certainly view that as a real condition. Okay, if he says on condition that I have 200 zuz, so that the Mishnah said. She's mikudeshes if he has it. But it sounds like if he doesn't have it, then she's not mikudeshes. which makes sense, except the Gemara asks, V'necho shema yeshla, we should be concerned, maybe he really does have. Ve'o Tanya, and furthermore, we have a brisa, Chayshinan shema yeshla. The brisa says that we actually are concerned that maybe he has it. So we do take this in the, we can't prove that he has it. We haven't proven that he does have it, but we haven't proven that he doesn't have it. Maybe he has it somewhere. So we should have to be concerned if a man says, on condition that I have 200 zuz, we as the basting, I guess, the rabbinical court, are they married or not? We should be choshesh. We should have to be concerned that maybe he really has this money somewhere. So how could we say that the Mishnah says if she's mikudeshes if he has it? It sounds like if he doesn't have it, she's not mikudeshes. So the Gemara says, lo kashi, it's not a contradiction. Our Mishnah is talking about absolute Kiddushin, definite Kiddushin, definitive Kiddushin. Vadai. So there, only if he has the money is there a definitive Kiddushin here. But if he doesn't have the money, so that's what the Brisa was talking about. The Brisa said, Chayshinan, we have to be concerned. Maybe he has it somewhere. Maybe he really does have. And so we're concerned about that, so it's a Safek Kiddushin. It's going to be, we'll be in doubt that maybe there is a Kiddushin here, which means she can't marry anybody else until she gets a get from him. Because maybe he does have the money somewhere. Okay, if he says, Amanash erech masayim zuz, on condition that I show you 200 zuz, that she's mekudeshes on condition that he eventually shows her 200 zuz. Says the Gemara, Tana was talking about Brisa, lo niskavna ela liros mishalo. She only meant to see his money. If he said, on condition that I show you 200 zuz, he didn't mean that, he takes her to, the mint and shows her a lot of money. That's not what he meant. He meant that he shows her his own money. Because she wants to see that he has the money, that's how it's understood. So it has to be that he shows her his own money. Now, the Gemara goes on and says, V'imhera la ala shulchan. But if he shows her the money on a shulchan, on the table, he's a money changer, and he shows her money on the table that's not his, Eina mikudeshes, she's not mikudeshes. So the Gemara asks, Pshita, that's obvious. Of course it has to be his own money. So here we have a bit of a problem, because what do you mean, of course it has to be his own money? We just quoted a brisa that said that it has to be his own money. But the Mishnah doesn't say that. So meaning, the Mishnah said, on condition that I show you 200 zuz. So it says if he shows her 200 zuz, so then it's a good Kiddushin as long as he's eventually shows her 200 zuz. And the Mishnah says, but if he shows her on the table, on his money changing table, it's not his money, then it's not a good Kiddushin. So the Mishnah seems to be bringing out this point that it has to be his money. But it's not obvious. And you know how not obvious it is? Because the Brisa had to say it for us. The Brisa had to elaborate and say it has to be his money. So what do we mean to ask on the Mishnah that it's obvious? We don't have the words that she meant his own money. This is what's teaching us that she meant his own money. So some understand that actually we're not asking on the Mishnah, we're asking on the Brisa. And the Brisa actually said as follows. If you go back to the previous line, it says, Tana was taught, Lo niskavna el liros mishalo. She only intended to see his own. And then the Brisa continues and it says, V'imhera la ala shulchan, if he shows her on the money lending table, in a Kodesh, is not a good Kiddushin. Well, obviously, you just told me that it has to be his own. That's what the Brisa said. So if you read that this line is not quoting from the Mishnah, but it's a continuation of the Brisa, then we understand the question Pshita. Of course it can't be from the money-changing table. You just said it has to be his own money. So what's it adding by saying it can't be from the money-changing table? So the Gemara says, Lo tzricha, no, it was necessary to still say that, Da'afagav nakat dami be'iska. Even if he has money for a business relationship or investment. Meaning, maybe you might have said, it doesn't have, if somebody gives him money to invest, to run a business with, where he gets profits from it, he gets a percentage, so you might have said that that's his money, and that will be enough. That's what That's the case we're talking about. If there's money on the money changing table, and it's money that was given to him to do business with, he was investors investing in his company, and he gets a profit from it. So you might have thought that that's enough because it's not his money, but he gets profits from it. So maybe that's enough that would satisfy what she was expecting. She was expecting his money, and it's like his money. He gets profits from it. Kamash Malan, that's what the Mishnah was coming, or the Brisa was coming to add and say, no, if it's on the money that's on the table, on the money changing table, it's not his money, and therefore, even if it was something he could get profits from through because people are investing in him, but still, it's not his, and that would not be enough to fulfill this condition for Kiddushin. Okay, we continue the next Mishnah, which is very similar. The Mishnah says, Amenashe yeshli base kor afar. A man gives a woman Kiddushin, he says, on condition that I have a base core of dirt, which really means he has a certain amount of field, certain size field. Rashi actually goes into the details. Base kur afar, Rashi says, is a place where you can plant 30 sa, which is a measurement. Every sa is 50 by 50 amos, Rashi says. So 30 sa would be 30 times 50 by 30 times 50. I'm not going to try to do that math right now, or maybe I will. 3 times 50, I guess that's 35. 1,500? 30 times 50, yeah, 1,500. So 1,500 square amos, I think. Anyways, he assures her that he has a base on condition. He gives Kiddushin on condition that he has this much land, a base kur. It's a good Kiddushin v'yeshlo, assuming that he actually has that much land. If he says on condition that I have a base kur in this specific place, he tells her a place, good real estate. So then, if he really has it there, then it's good Kiddushin. But if he doesn't have it there, so then, even if he has it somewhere else, Eina Mekudeshes is not a good Kiddushin. If he says, Menashe erech base kor afar, if he says on condition that I will show you a base core of dirt, of a field, Hareza Mekudeshes, that's a good Kiddushin, v'yarena, as long as he shows her. V'imhera bebika, but if he showed her in a valley that wasn't his land, Eina Mekudeshes, that's not Kiddushin, it has to be that it is his land. Okay. So now the Gemara goes through kind of the same questions that I went through earlier. It says, V'neicho shema yeshlo. Right, the Mishnah says that if he says, on condition I have a base core, then it's a good Kiddushin, assuming that he has. Implying, but if he doesn't have it, then it's not a good Kiddushin. But says the Gemara, but we should be concerned. Maybe he has it somewhere. So we, I guess, as the overseeing court, should be concerned about that. But Tanya, we also have a Brisa, Chayshinan shema yeshlo. The Brisa says we do have that concern. We're concerned that he has it somewhere. I think in particular because he made that condition, it sounds like he has it. So all of a sudden he's trying to say he doesn't have it. So we have to be concerned maybe he really does. So the Gemara says you're right. Lo kasha, it's not a contradiction. Habi kiddushin vade, habi kiddushin safek. Our Mishnah is telling you when it's definite kiddushin. If we know that he has it, then it's a definitive kiddushin. If we don't know that he has it, the Brisa says chayshinan. We have to be concerned maybe he really does. Then it'll be a safek kiddushin. She won't be able to marry anybody else until she gets a get from him. So that's the Gemara. As we mentioned, it's a little bit redundant from the previous Mishnah. The previous Mishnah had this very similar cases with regards to money, and now we're doing it with regards to land, to a field. Why is it necessary to have the same teachings, basically, with regards to land and with regards to money? Says the Gemara Tzricha, it was necessary to have both Mishnahs. If it had only told me this, but when it comes to money, Mishum Davidi Inchi de Mitzni, I would have said that it's normal to hide money. and therefore by money we would have a concern. We could on our own figure this out. The Mishnah didn't say it, remember? The Brisa says it. So it could be asking on the Brisa. The truth is, it could be asking on the Brisa. Why do we need each Brisa? One by money and one by the field. But it's also a question on the Mishnah. And we can kind of figure out on our own that even if he says, if he says on condition that I have 200 zuz, so we say if he has it, it's a Kiddushin, but if he doesn't have it, well, we can deduce on our own, maybe he has it hidden somewhere. We have to be concerned for that. So we could figure that out. So if they only told me that, that's because I have concern that he hides the money somewhere. About Ara, but land, Ema, I should say, Ida Isla Ara, Kala Isla. If he has land somewhere, we would know about it. And maybe you would say you don't have to be concerned that maybe there's land somewhere. Kamash Malan, that's what's coming to teach us by talking about land also. And again, I think there's two ways to learn this Gemara. One is that's why the Brisa had to tell us that we have to be concerned even by land. And it was asking, why do I need a Brisa to tell me that we have to be concerned that maybe he has the money somewhere, and a Brisa that he has to be concerned maybe he has the land somewhere. Why isn't it enough just to have one and I learn the other one? So it's telling us because if they only said it by money, I would have said that by money we're concerned he has money hidden away somewhere, but land you don't hide away. We would know if he had it. Kamash Malan, the Brisa says, no, we still have to be concerned maybe he has land somewhere. That's, I think, one way to learn it, to going on the Brisa. Rashi seems to imply it even on the Mishnah. Why do I need two Mishnahs? So the answer is because the Mishnah about the money, I can deduce, I can figure out on my own from the Mishnah, even though it didn't say it, that we have to be concerned if he has the money, it's a good Kiddushin. If he doesn't, well, who says he doesn't? People hide money. Maybe he does. So we have to be concerned that maybe he really does have the money. That's with regards to money. And by juxtaposing, by placing a Mishnah about land, which is almost the same, right next to it, so that tells us, just like we have to be concerned maybe he has money somewhere, so apply the same thing to the adjacent Mishnah, maybe we have to be concerned that he has land somewhere. That's what will be coming to teach me by telling us, by speaking out both cases. Okay, the Gemara continues, it says, that if he says, on condition that I have a field in a certain place, the Mishnah said if he has it there, it's Kiddushin. If he doesn't have it, it's not Kiddushin. Ask the Gemara, Pshita. That's obvious. If he fulfills the condition, it's a Kiddushin. If he doesn't have the field there, it's not a Kiddushin. Here, I don't think there's any secret fields. He's saying, I have it there. If it's not there, it's not there. So, Mao de Tema, what might I have said? Amarla. I might have said, he could say to her, My nafkalach mina, why do you care where it is? So I have it 3 blocks away, or, a 20-minute drive away. Why do you care? This woman that he wants to give Kiddushin to. Anatarachna maisina. I'll go put in the effort and I'll bring the stuff back from the field. It shouldn't concern you where the field is. I'll put in the effort to bring the stuff back. So he said I have a field in a specific place. And it turned out he didn't. So we say, the Kiddushin's no good. But he has a field somewhere else, and you could see, maybe we would say that, what difference does it make where it is? He has the field, he'll bring the stuff, he'll bring the produce in. Kamash Malan, that's why it teaches me, no, if it's not there, it's not there, the condition is not fulfilled. The Mishnah said, if he says on condition that I show you a base core, that measurement of land that I have. Well, it doesn't say that I have, but the Brisa says, Tana, lo niskavna zu ela liros mishalo. Her intent is only to see his. She doesn't want to just see land, she wants to see his land. It has to be that he owns the land. And then, again, we have a similar thing as before, and we'll read this as part of the Brisa, that the Brisa continues and says, V'imhera babika eina mikudeshes. But if he would show her in a valley, land that's not his, it's not a good Kiddushin. Pshita, that's obvious. Didn't we just say that? That she wants his land. She wants him to have land. She doesn't want to, or she wants to see his land. She doesn't want to see someone else's land. So it's obvious that if it's in a valley that he doesn't own, it shouldn't be a good Kiddushin. The Gemara says, Lo tzricha, no, it was necessary to tell me that. Dinakit bidistura. That he shows her land. Before we had with the money, we said where there's an investment here. It's a similar thing. He shows her land that he is the sharecropper for. It's not his field, it's not his land, but he gets profits from it as the sharecropper. So you might have thought that that's good enough, because he has profits from it after all. That's why he had to say, no, if he shows her a land that's not his, and a bika, even if he's the sharecropper, she wants it to be his land, that he's the owner. If he's not the owner, it's not a fulfillment of the condition. Thanks for listening. We'll continue from here next time.